Hey guys, my name is Mitchell. I just wanted to welcome you to my vlog. However it was you reached me, whether it was through a link on Facebook or just perusing the website. I want to thank you for stopping by and checking out the vlog. I started vlogging just a couple of days ago. I've been blogging for a while, but I wanted to try out the video blog, and you guys seem to respond well to it. So I wanted to put out another one. So here's another episode of the vlog for you. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about fear and sharing the gospel. So many times we can be discouraged in sharing the gospel because we feel like we don't know enough. Maybe we haven't been Christians very long and aren't well knowledged in scripture or theology or any other aspects about the faith. So when we feel like we aren't good enough and we feel like we aren't qualified, we can often back down from sharing the gospel because we don't want to misrepresent Jesus. And that's very admirable. You know, we want to be able to represent Jesus well, and so we feel like we can't do that sometimes because we don't know enough about him, or we don't know enough about scripture. And so today I want to combat that, and want to encourage you and empower you to be able to share the good news and share your transformation story. So today I actually want to talk about a man in the book of John. This man doesn't have a name. He was just known as a blind beggar. And so we see a story in John chapter 9, and he's known as the blind beggar in his city because he sits outside of the city gates, and he begs. He begs people for money, for food, and people just usually just walk right by him. And so he's not thought much of. He's just kind of passed by, often scoffed at, made fun of, whatever the case may be there. But Jesus walks by and has an interaction with this man, and ends up healing his sight. The man was born since birth, and Jesus, comes up to him, and he actually spits in clay and rubs it in his eyes, and the man, opens them and is able to see. And so this actually happens on the Sabbath, which it's against the law. You're not supposed to work or do the work of the Lord on the Sabbath, since it's a day of rest. And so when the religious leaders hear about this story and about this blind man being healed, it causes a lot of controversy. They begin asking questions. They find the man, begin interrogating him, asking him who it was that healed his sight. They just have this back and forth conversation regarding what happened. It even gets to a point where they ask the former blind man's parents to come in and confirm that he used to be blind. And so they just go back and forth, and the conversation escalates. And so you actually see toward the end of the conversation, they ask him one more time. They say, "We're going to ask you again one last time, who is the man that healed you?" And so the blind beggar, it's an awesome response, and we actually find it in verse 30. And he responds to the religious leaders, and he says, "Well, what a surprise this is. You don't even know where he comes from, but he healed my eyes, and now I can see. We know that God doesn't listen to sinners, but only to godly people who do his will. Yet who has ever heard of a man born blind that was healed and given his eyesight for the very first time? I tell you, if this man isn't from God, he wouldn't be able to heal me like he has." So awesome story. It's a man who doesn't know anything about Jesus, has never studied scripture, doesn't follow or abide by the law of any kind. And Jesus walks by and heals his sight, and all of a sudden he begins testifying on Jesus's behalf. Through all of the controversy, it even got to a point where people were being killed over testifying on Jesus's behalf. They were being persecuted. And so this man was actually taking a leap of faith and saying, "Hey, this man is from God. What he did can only be from someone who is from God." And so, he's facing some persecution here if he testifies on Jesus's behalf. And so it's an amazing story because he didn't know anything. He didn't know anything about Jesus. He didn't know the history, the scriptures, anything like that. But because of his experience, because of his transformation, he was able to say, this man is indeed from God. And he even almost kind of makes a joke at the religious leaders, because he says, you guys have been reading about this coming Messiah. You guys have been reading about who he is, and you guys don't even know, have confidence in who he is. But he healed my sight, and I know. So it should give us confidence as believers and sharers of the good news that we often won't have the answers. We're not always going to have the knowledge, or the academics, or the theology, or the apologetics. We may not have all of those answers, but if you're a believer, Jesus has touched your life and transformed your life in some kind of way, and that's the story that you need to know to tell. It's always important, it's always valuable and crucial to read Scripture and to study the Word, and to even study apologetics and the background and history of why we believe what we believe. But those aren't essential. Like, you don't have to know those to share the good news. And so I just encourage you today to be like the blind man, to really embrace your story of transformation, to embrace what the Lord has done in your life, and begin telling that story. You'll get in conversations with people sometimes, and they'll ask questions you don't know the answers to. I often get in conversations with people who have been hurt by the church, who have been hurt by God, or they think they've been hurt by God, and they're just very skeptical. And so they often have a lot of questions. And sometimes I have to say, hey, I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know what the Lord has done in my life, and this is how he transformed me, and this is how he healed the broken places of my heart. So as we share the gospel and we make it intentional in sharing the good news with the lost, we have that story in our tool belt. We can pull it out and say, hey, this is how the Lord transformed my life, and this is how we begin to infuse hope into the lost, into those who have never heard about Jesus. We just tell our story, and we walk around with that in confidence, and we can say with boldness what Jesus has done for us. So I just encourage you with that today. Like, don't shrink back. Don't be afraid to share the good news of Jesus just because you feel like you aren't qualified or you don't have the right information. He's done a work in your life, and you can use that to share the gospel and to share the hope that's inside of you. 1 Peter 3:15, always be ready to give the hope that lives inside of you. That story is your hope. It's what changed your life. And so I encourage you to tell it with confidence and boldness wherever it is you go. Just be ready to tell that story, no matter what questions you're asked or what information you don't know. That's the story that you have, and it's the testimony that Revelation tells us that we conquer by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So I hope this encouraged you today. If you liked it or found it encouraging, please give me a thumbs up on Facebook or YouTube. Share the video, whatever you want to do with it. And also, too, before you leave the website, I just want to encourage you to subscribe to my email list. You'll see at the bottom of the page, there's actually a couple of things that you'll get for free, but it also just gives me the ability to connect with you, to email back and forth, to know who you are, and to give you information regarding the ministry and things coming up and things of that nature. So please subscribe, and I hope that you guys have a good afternoon. Thanks.